This program is brought to you by realestate.com.au. Reach more potential buyers with a Luxe listing.
Thanks for being with us here on Business Now. Well, let's go to the home auction results from across the weekend. And again, I'm going to tell you, it was pretty strong. Across the country, there were 1,429 auctions and just over 65% of them were successful. Now, curious to note that Sydney almost seems to be the laggard right now. 470 auctions, the clearance rate 64%. But in Melbourne, 537 auctions and more than 70% of those were sold. Brisbane, 93 auctions, 57% were cleared. Adelaide had 50 auctions and 78% of those were successful. The ACT had 45 auctions, 2/3 of those went through. And I'm going to highlight a very strong Darwin market today that had 8 auctions, 7 of which were sold over the weekend. Angus Moore is a senior economist with REA Group and joins me now. Angus, always good to chat to you. It really, again, just shows that investors, first home buyers, a lot of others are really creeping into some of these markets now. Melbourne being the big catch-up. Darwin's an interesting one for a lot of people to consider as well.
Thanks for having me, Ross. Yeah, look, we're certainly seeing some pretty solid results in Melbourne at the moment, which is quite a turnaround from conditions in Melbourne over the past few years. Melbourne's obviously seen pretty soft conditions and very sluggish home price growth for much of the past 3 years, really since the RBA started raising rates. We've kind of seen prices track sideways over those past few years. This year's been different. We have started to see some home price growth. It's not particularly strong. It's not setting any records by any means. Prices are up about 2.5% from where they were at the start of the year. But that is a real turnaround from the sort of slow falls or sitting flat that we had been seeing.
Okay, so your numbers came out last Friday and basically showing, the price movements across the country. What seems to be the strong market right now?
Yeah, that's right. We had our home price index out last Friday. In terms of where we're seeing the strongest markets at the moment, Adelaide was really the only standout in the month. Prices were up just shy of 1% across the month, which is pretty solid growth for 1 month. And across the year, it is one of the stronger performers. That's been true for some time. Adelaide, Perth, Brisbane have been really strong performing markets relative to Sydney and Melbourne. That said, this year we're starting to see a little bit more convergence. To kind of put it in perspective, 2024, prices in Melbourne were down. In Sydney, they were up sort of 2-3%. Brisbane, Adelaide, Perth, we're seeing double-digit growth, nearly 20% in Perth. This year, they're all kind of tracking fairly similar pace. Melbourne's up 2.5%, Brisbane's up sort of 5%, and that's about the spread between them. So it just hasn't been as much of a divergent market across the country this year.
Okay, so next week is pivotal for the housing markets, as well as probably a lot of investors and homeowners out there. There's a Reserve Bank decision on interest rates which will be made, but also there's this productivity and economic roundtable that the government will hold. What do you imagine that the home building industry would like to see out of that productivity roundtable?
Yeah, certainly home building's been one of the more challenging sectors for the past couple of years. And one of the reasons why homes are as unaffordable as they are and why rentals are as unaffordable as they are is that we're just not building enough homes for the number of people looking to live in homes at the moment. And we're certainly tracking well behind the government's 1.2 million target over 5 years. We had data out on building approvals, which is sort of relatively at the early stage of the pipeline for building. While it was pleasing, we did see a big jump in higher density approvals. It's still well behind the sort of pace we need. So in terms of what home builders will be looking for, really it comes down to unlocking the ability to put more homes in the sorts of areas that people want to live, around major transit areas, close to the CBD, allowing that sort of upzoning. It's easy to say. It is obviously a lot more difficult to achieve in practice, but I think that's where we'll be looking to see some reforms.
It's going to be interesting. Just very quickly, will that actually skew home prices in those key areas?
So we do know that building more homes in the areas that people want to live does make housing more affordable. We have evidence from various cities around the world, but most notably Auckland, just across the pond, as it were, where they did a big upzoning of Auckland, and it made housing and rents more affordable across the sort of subsequent 5 to 10 years. Yep. So it can help improve affordability, but it does take a while. I'll
tell you what, Angus Moore, always good to chat to you. Many thanks for your time today.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me, Russ.